time, right? I
Like
know.
5 years. Like 5 years.
It's been that long.
Yeah, I know it's been that long because I made my Instagram in 2015 as I was finishing up my yoga teacher training. And
Wow.
then like after that, it was like 2016. So it has to be 2015 or 2016 when
Exactly.
I
Because
started following you.
I think that was about the time when we came out to Seattle to see our son Corey. Um, and we couldn't connect, you and I. Wow, I can't believe it. This is so great. I'm so, so happy. Wow, that's a cool background, by the way.
Thank
Jellyfish.
you.
How did you do that? I need lessons.
It's just a virtual background. If
Oh,
you go on the there's like a little carrot next to the stop video button,
yeah.
and if you click on that, you can go to video settings and you can choose
Oh,
background and filters.
oh, I have to get with the program. This is so good. So first, tell me, because I am not sure that I pronounce your name right. I mean, I've only said it to my husband anyway. So tell me, how do you pronounce your name so that at least I'm clear and other people will be too.
Yeah, it's pronounced hien.
Hien.
Yes,
Ah, okay. Oh, I did good.
yes, you did,
Good.
you did.
Good for me. Hien. And what's your last name?
Hong,
Hung. Okay.
Hong.
This
Yeah.
Hung. Okay. Um, it's one of those things from doing so much diversity training work and whatnot. And I can remember being in a training, and there was a young Asian American woman. I don't remember what her ethnicity was. And she said something like her name was Janet. And I was like, is that the name that you were given at birth? And she said, no. And I said, well, what is your given name? And she told me what it was. Don't really remember. But it was an interesting process. And I said, it's important for people to know who you really are, not to really change who you are in order to make other people comfortable. Um, and so that's why I'm like, people have to sort of feel comfortable with the skill of asking. It's no problem asking. If you don't know how to say something, you ask a question, right?
Yeah, totally. That is definitely true. And, I've had moments when I was younger where I would sign up for an activity and not use this name actually. Like I've had that too, where I would be using a different name. But then I realized how silly that was because
Right.
this is me
This
and I like my name now.
exactly. This is you. So now, do you remember? Because I don't. I'm so terrible. I think it's like old age. I'm not exactly sure how you and I connected, even though it's been quite a while. I mean, I started
I
my
think honestly, I used to post I haven't been doing it like this for a long time, but I used to post like on I think Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I would do like a special hashtag. And then honestly, I feel like I probably just did that, and then you probably just clicked on a hashtag and followed me, and then I followed you back. Or maybe I clicked on a hashtag and saw you and followed you. Like that's really what I think
right,
it
right,
is.
right, right.
I think it was just us following each other just because we saw each other.
Right.
Why not?
Why
So,
not? Exactly. And then there's this connection that develops, which I find really interesting. It's like a lot of people see, I'm shifting, so I'm a little more in the light. Um, so a lot of people find social media, the negative side of social media. There's such a positive side, and um, that sort of grows your relationships and your connections with other people. That is, if you want that to happen. You know what I mean? Uh, and so it's like 5 years. We're not regularly connected. The algorithm stuff, we won't go there with.
I know
It's
that's the thing. That's what I was thinking because when you reached out to me, I was like, oh yeah, like I haven't seen her stuff recently.
right.
And I just thought that was funny.
You're just like, well, where did she come from, right? She just emerged out of nowhere. um, y- and when you start following so many people or so many people follow you, if you, I understand that if you're not constantly, or not constantly, but regularly responding to someone's post, then you don't really see them in your feed. And
I
so,
gotta go on your posts and comment a bunch now. Like I gotta
yeah,
just
see,
go comment on like 10 of them so that I'll get I'll get
exactly.
it.
Me too. So that I think I don't even know what it was. Something popped up in you popped up, and I was like, oh yeah, where's she been? And so I'm looking at all the stuff that you're doing. I remember when you were starting your group. So why don't you start there? Why don't you tell us who you are, where you live, how you started your yoga journey, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I'm so excited to tell you, like sit down with you and like tell you like my full story because I think you see like, like what you said, I think you see like pieces of it, right?
Right.
So yeah, so I live in the Seattle area. I'm really closer to Tacoma. That's about I don't know, an hour south of Seattle or so.
Mhm.
And I started doing yoga when I was like high school age. I was a teenager and I started do it just for PE credit. I was like, oh, I need PE credit. And there was a after school program at the school I was at. And so I was like, cool, I'll just do that. But, I learned really quickly that I loved it and it really helped me with my stress at the time as a young person.
Mhm.
And then, few years after that, I decided to do my 200-hour yoga teacher training because I just felt really called into learning more about yoga. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, like I'm doing my training because I want to teach one day, but also like I want to learn like the deeper stuff, right? Like in my head, I was thinking like the yoga philosophy and the meditation, like all that good stuff.
Right, 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 right.
And so I did my first yoga teacher training and I did learn a little bit of that stuff, but I was also really shocked. It felt so jarring for me when I realized just how white it was. Like
Ah.
like I was like, "Oh crap." Like this is I mean, it was probably because I was really naive. Like I was also in college, right? So I was college age while I was doing my first 200-hour and I was like, oh wow, like I must have just not known or just not been aware that it was just really white. I think we had it was like a group of 30 and we had like three people of color. It's
Mhm.
just yeah, and there were other good things about it. Like it was really diverse in terms of body and age. There were young people and older people and that's really cool, but it was so white and I was so intimidated. I was like,
Ah, yeah.
oh, maybe like people like me don't do this. Like maybe people like me should not do this. Like
Ah.
it freaks me out. And so I remember after I did my teacher training, I didn't like go and teach like right away. That was a little bit hard, I think, for someone like me to just find a place where they would hire me. And so, I remember one time posting something on my Instagram about like me not being like, I don't know, like the most fancy asana teacher or whatever. And I remember you commented. I don't remember what you said, but you
Ah.
said something that made me feel a lot better. like you like
That's
you
good.
said something that made me feel a lot better. Like I remember that. And I just remember being excited. Like you may have been one of the first like black yoga people I've seen, honest, like when I'm thinking
Wow.
about it.
Yeah.
Like because again, in my training, it was very white, like mostly white. There was no like real like black or brown people. It was like two Asians and one white passing Hispanic woman. So it was
Ah.
just yeah, that was sort of how it was at the time. And again, this was like 5 years ago. So we'll fast forward a little bit. I started, to find opportunities. And I was really lucky to find some opportunities. I was teaching at a nonprofit yoga studio. They really focus on trauma informed yoga.
Cool.
Shortly after my 200-hour, I did a 20-hour trauma sensitive yoga program. So, that kind of just helps open the doors to a different style of teaching, like
Mhm.
teaching in a way that feels I guess, more well, I want to say two things. It feels less oppressive than somehow like the standard way of teaching is, where
I
it's
got
like the
you.
teacher tells you what to do, like you
Yes.
do it, no questions. They'll come and push you into it, right?
Right, 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 right,
Uh,
right, right.
right. And so I started teaching trauma informed yoga, or learning it, and where it was a lot more, I think, permissive for the student to be like, feel into your body and do what feels right, and really focus on like really taking care of yourself, right? Like you don't need to punish yourself
Right.
to do yoga. Like why? Like I don't do it to punish myself. Um, and so that's what I was doing for a little bit. And then it got to a point where, it was still mostly a very white world where I'm at in the Tacoma area. And I got really tired of it. Honestly, like I just I got tired of it, and I got very annoyed by it, because one thing to understand is, in this area, like I'm in Washington State, in the Seattle area, like people are very like liberal, progressive types,
Right. Exactly.
and yet they don't seem to see this issue that I feel is such an issue. Like I feel like
Mhm.
this is a real big deal. But they didn't seem to like really see that, or maybe they would agree with me, but they didn't really address it. And I was just like, what's going on? Like, I don't know. There's something weird there, right? Like when that kind of thing happens.
That's very true.
Um and so what ended up happening was, I had some conversations. So first I want to say I had some conversations with some white yoga studio owners, where
Mm.
it was not received well.
No
Like it was
kidding.
not received. No, it was not received well. And I think it was a lot of, I don't know, just defensiveness, right? Like where people may not
Defensive.
fully understand, but
True.
they feel, oh, I'm a good person. Like
Right.
I didn't mean
Are you
this. Like,
calling me racist?
yeah, it's that kind of vibe. And it was very that was really hard on me, because I felt like
Mm.
it took so much courage to even be having these conversations, and then to
Sure.
be shot down like that was really hard for me. And so I just remember being super pissed. Like I was like mad,
Mm.
and for for the right reasons. And then at the time, I found Susanna Barkataki, who, her book,
Yes.
Embrace Yoga's Roots,
Yes.
is out.
Yes.
And so, she had written an article like years ago, probably around when I did my 200-hour, I think it was like 2015 or something, about how to decolonize your yoga practice. And so this was an article that I really liked, that I shared with my students. And I found her on Instagram. That's the beauty of like the internet, right? You could just find people on Instagram.
It's the
So I
truth.
found her on Instagram, and this was when she only had like 3,000 followers. She has like 30,000 followers
I
something
know,
now. Like
right.
she's
Right, right, right.
really amazing and done really awesome. But at the time, she had like 3,000 followers. And I knew that she was doing a 300-hour teacher training. And I thought, like, okay, I'm at the point in my career where I'd like to do another teacher training, but I need for it not to be like my first. Like, and I need
Yes.
it to be with someone, either person of color, or someone with a lot of like social justice, I guess more of a social justice lens, right? It cannot be the same thing I keep seeing.
Mhm.
I refused. I was like,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
refuse to settle for that, because I had to deal with that for a long time. And so, I started chatting with her, and then I did her 300-hour training. And that really built a lot of, I guess, confidence in me for what I felt. Like I felt
Right.
like I was justified in my frustration with how white the yoga scene was, and how unwilling people were to change it.
Mm.
And so then, along with that, I decided to, and I was reluctant, I should tell you, I was really reluctant to do this, because in my head, it's like, someone else could do this, and someone else could do it better than me. Like, why should I do it? It's that kind of doubt that I had. But eventually, doing Susanna's training and gaining the confidence, and feeling really affirmed in my feelings about the
Right.
yoga world here, I decided to offer um, yoga for women of color, and also meditation for women of color. I started there. And it's just been really great since, I guess. Like I'm like, and the rest is history. Like I feel like when I started to offer that, I I was just you just never know how your community will receive it, right? You just don't
Right.
know how what people will think. But it turned out really well because I realized that there were other people who felt like I did. Like there were people who did not even go to the yoga, like they didn't even get into the yoga studio
That's
because
right.
they're like, this isn't for me. Like this is not for me, and it can be intimidating if you don't know the yoga scene to go into it and see a bunch of people who are not like you in any way,
In
or
any
and
way.
it's in any way, and who may not even, and it's not about like people needing to be the same, but it's about like people being willing to um you know have a relationship with you and
Sure.
like meet you where you're at.
Sure.
And I think for a lot of folks of color, for a lot of women of color, they don't find that in a yoga space. I couldn't find that, and I was a teacher, right? I was like trying to
Right.
talk to people, and they're like,
Uh-uh.
nope, defensive. What are you talking about? Why are you? I had the why are you so angry thing. Like,
Wow. You angry woman of color. That is something that just pushes my button. And it's seriously a defense on their part. It's your problem that you're actually approaching. It's amazing. It's utterly amazing.
yeah, it's it's really something. Yes. So I had that like, why are you so angry? Like, oh, yeah, I've been in the yoga studio or yoga scene for decades. Like, of course I know there are problems with it. And it's like, okay, I'm thinking like, if you know there are problems with it, then like,
Do
why
something.
do something? Or like, why are you then, targeting me for raising the issues if you supposedly already know it, right? Like it didn't make sense. So that was really difficult, but I can now talk about it and kind of laugh, like this is
Mm.
where they were at. And so now what I do is I like to create offerings for BIPOC. Earlier, because we're this is 2020 and there's a pandemic, but earlier in the year I had partnered up with Tacoma Metro Parks, and I was offering
Oh,
a
cool.
yoga for BIPOC class at one of their parks. It was inside a conservatory, and it was beautiful,
Wow.
and so being able to bring yoga and nature together for BIPOC just felt really fun and cool.
Wow.
And it was a really awesome experience. I was supposed to do it like 2 or 3 times more, but March came and everyone closed.
I know.
But it was great. And I think I was able to do that because the supervisor of the place reached out to me because she is a Black woman. And so
Wow.
I mean, that's all to say that representation matters, and that having folks of color in positions of power matter, because then they can
Absolutely.
do these things, right? And so yeah, and since we've been all online, I've just been teaching online. I've also been working with Susanna Barkataki. She's been doing her advanced teacher training, the same one I did, but online. And so I've also been helping out with that as a mentor.
Cool.
And yeah, it's so great. And my
Wow.
favorite,
That's
my
exciting.
favorite part, it is really exciting. My favorite part about doing this is talking to other yoga teachers of color all around the country, all around the world, and trying to support them, and hearing very similar things to what I shared with you about the scene being
Right.
super white, and people in power being harmful, like whether they realize it or not, whether they mean it to
Exactly.
or not, and being able to support folks of color in yoga. So that's like kind of like that's my work, and I'm so like happy that I'm able to do it, and I'm so happy to be able to learn from so many other wonderful teachers of color out there, and people like you on Instagram. I remember like it felt like a big deal to me to see you on Instagram, like just
Wow.
you doing your thing and like having fun, like doing the challenges, and that felt important to me because I didn't see women of color in my community in
Which
yoga
is just
spaces having fun or anything, like
right. Right. It's it speaks to the importance of people minimize the fact that when you see someone who looks like you or close enough to you, put it that way, people minimize the impact of that, You have no idea. It's like for me, like you said, I'm having fun. I'm doing my thing. I could care. I could really care less. But I also know that because sort of inclusion is my thing, diversity is my thing, that my who I'm attracted to is a diverse group of people. You name the characteristic, whether it's race or age or ethnicity or religion or gender or sexual orientation. I'm just, it's like I feel the vibe and I'm like connected, So you look at my feed, which I try to tell people, if you look at my feed, you name it, you will see it. You name the kind of person, you will see it. And I encourage people to look at their feed. What does it look like? What does that look like to you? Who are you attracted to? What are you avoiding? And people minimize what it means. And I'll have people who will send me, they have private accounts. They never, even when I say, I'll ask, oh, I'll follow you. They never really follow, or acknowledge that, but they'll say, it's just so important that I see you. And it's just like, well, that's cool. Because if it's just one person, that to me is a big deal. You know, that's that's really important. And when you think of something like a practice like yoga that's lifelong, certainly can be lifelong, that is much more than asana and what it does in terms of supporting and nurturing and healing people. You want to make sure that people that look like you and I and beyond have the opportunity to participate in it.
Absolutely.
Um,
I mean, 100% agree. I'm like, absolutely.
and so many BIPOC people just feel like it's not for them. I mean, I felt the same way. Like, yoga? Really? No kidding. I never saw anybody that looked like me doing yoga. Um, I think what's encouraging for me is that I see more and more younger than I, people of color who are involved. I will say what concerns me though is that I see more younger people of color that involve, but their feeds and who they follow are very myopic. So it concerns me when I can look at other black yogis and I'll follow and I just peruse, I look at who they follow, I look and I go, I don't see one white person, I don't see one Asian person, I don't see one, you name it, indigenous person, I don't see why. And I don't know exactly what that's about. Um, I have a few hypotheses about it, but I mean, I can't say for sure what it is. But it does concern me because it's a practice that's about joining and supporting and being together. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
First, I feel like I need to look up the word myopic. I know you're also a professor, so I'm
Oh,
like,
it means this. It means like you got on
okay.
blinders and all you see is what's right in front of you. You know,
Yeah.
it's just all, put it this way, it would be all blackly black, 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 or it'd be all Asian-y, Asian, Asian, or it'd be,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Okay, yes, I get it. Yes. Thank you so much. I'm here
no
like,
problem.
oh yeah, you're also like a professor, right?
Yeah, don't even, yeah, but not piled high and deep though, as they say.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. I have thoughts on that just because I see, there are different sort of like groups that are just for what, like, it's very specific, and there's stuff like that for Asian women as well. And it's interesting because when I started offering, yoga for women of color and BIPOC in my community, where there was, there were certain parts of that demographic, when I say people of color, BIPOC, that would show up more than others.
Hmm.
And so when pandemic happened, we're all online. I
Right.
started to look into more of who was not showing up as much to my
Hmm.
in-person offerings. And that actually, it's interesting. It actually happened to be Asian people and Asian women.
No
There just were
kidding.
not as, yeah, it's interesting. There just wasn't as many of them who maybe knew about me or considered themselves as being part of that bigger group of BIPOC or women of color, people of color. Or maybe, it's my own like marketing faults, right? Like maybe I just didn't and so, I see groups that was just like, are just Asian for Asians. I joined in with them, I attend events or some things like that. And, I think sometimes it is helpful to have that where you just want to
Absolutely.
focus on like, okay, let's dissect. Well, with coronavirus and the anti-Asian sentiments in the
Mm.
US, it's like, okay, let's like, dissect and to this together and heal and all that. But I also do feel similar to you where I could not just follow like Asian, because I do really feel like the practice is about everyone and unity and union. That's what my teachers, so Susanna says a lot. And I have to be very careful of anything that may seem like forgetting that
Hmm.
it's like that kind of like divide and conquer between the different groups, right? It's
Right.
like
Right.
of like the like I what happens with white supremacy is that it makes different groups like pit themselves against each other, right?
Sure.
And it's like I don't want that. Like what we're against is white supremacy or like the systems of harm. Like we're
Right.
not against each other, right?
Right.
And so that's just something that that's been on my mind too, of just being maybe just nuanced about how I approach my work. And even with just like what I said was like some of these like Asian groups, they're fine, but there are times where I'm also kind of annoyed with them a little bit. I'm just like, okay, and
Yeah. And
look into Black and Indigenous stuff.
yeah, right, 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 right. Yes, there is something about the need to connect with people that are like you. And it's a need. Um, it nourishes, supports, and you don't have to, in a lot of ways, explain yourself. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right, yes, absolutely.
So there isn't that sort of I'm on guard, or I have to pick my words, or whatever, my words, my behavior, my dress, my whatever it could be. Um, and it's how are we, or how do we cross that line where we say, this is important. I'm not giving that up. However, this is equally as important, particularly in this practice, you know. Um, and I don't necessarily have the answer to that one.
I don't either. But it is something that I've started to think about, just
Yeah,
2020 is that year that's going to make you just stop and think about everything.
everything. You're forced to. If you don't want to, you're in a lot of ways, you are seriously forced to. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you're in this line of work, for lack of a better way of putting it, things have become much more globalized and visual.
Yes.
And that's why we see, people of European descent, sort of those that are sort of waking up. And I have a lot of people who will private message me that I follow, or they follow me on Instagram, and they'll say, I really had no idea. And I said, you're not alone about people who had no idea. However, the important point to remember is once you're made aware, you're responsible for change. What are you going to do?